Earthvox podcast.
Well, good morning. Here we are, right on time-ish, whatever. It said 11 o'clock when I hit go, so it counts. Happy Super Bowl day, I guess, if you care about that kind of thing. As a competitive person, I appreciate sports. But I got turned off on professional sports a long time ago because of just obvious, suspicious discrepancies in calls, officiating. Then there's all of the gambling accusations. It just seems, it's great for entertainment, it's whatever, but I don't go out of my way to search it out. I always say, I was a big sports fan when I lived in Portland, and I had multiple sports talk radio stations to listen to throughout my day. Then I moved away from Portland, out into the wilderness, and away went all of my sports talk radio stations. And therefore, so also went my interest in professional sports. But it's fun around Super Bowl time to get together with friends and just do something. I'm not a drinker. I'm not really a partier anymore. So it's more just about being social, hanging out with the guys. I've got plans later today. Gonna go watch the game, the Super Bowl 70 billion or however many. So, that's like my level of interest in it. Don't know which one, don't care. Barely know which teams are involved. If it wasn't my home state's team, the Seattle Seahawks, I'd be even less engaged. But it's cool. It makes it more fun, right? To have your local team make it to the biggest game of the season. So go. I couldn't tell you. Who's the quarterback? Darnold for the Seahawks? I don't even know any of the good players. But it's fun to have a social event sometimes. I would argue that it's more fun to have a social event because this particular social event actually has something to do. So often, the social gatherings are just, we're going to stand around and talk and drink beer. And it's a stretch for me to commit to doing those kind of things. So we're just going to stand around and drink beer? That doesn't sound engaging at all. No offense to those of you that like to go hang out and stand around and drink beer. I used to have fun doing those kind of things. But when it's centered around an event, it's more engaging for me. There's something to watch, and I think most appropriately, there is an ending time when, okay, the game's over. We've all wrapped up the one or at least the main reason that we've arrived at this place. Now the game is over. Now we're going to go home, which is really the best part about going out, right? Not to lean too heavily on the comedian Tom Segura's bit, which I think is probably, it's probably popular and enjoyable because a lot of us feel that way, right? When is it time to go home? And that concludes the extent of what I wanted to talk about regarding the Super Bowl today. Seattle Seahawks, New England Patriots, kickoff time. Who cares? I'll be there at some point. I might be late. I couldn't care less. The best part is the last part, anyway. When you can miss all of the terrible calls that for some reason still exist. I mean, I love to think about this in the context of AI and what we're capable of now, whether we know it or not. We're still relying on officials because, well, I don't know. Explain it to me. We still have 6 dudes. I mean, I wonder how many referees on the field for today's Super Bowl. I wonder if it makes a difference. I wonder if there's more on the fields for the Super Bowl than there is on a regular season game. Probably not. 7. 7 dudes presumably spent their entire lives focused on football and the rules and probably playing and competing in their own ways. While there are probably 10 times as many cameras fed into computers, watched on screens, showing every possible angle. And I wonder sometimes, I mean, if you watch from an objective perspective, they go back and review some of these calls, and I found myself asking last week, or I guess it was 2 weekends ago now, when the Seahawks played the Rams on some controversial calls. I don't remember. I don't care. I found myself wondering, why are they showing the audience that angle of the play? When you know from experience, having watched other controversial calls dissected by officials, you know there's a line, or there's a camera looking straight down the line that can see, was he offsides? Was he not offsides? Did he encroach in the neutral zone? Where's the camera angle showing us that? And that's when you kind of start to put it all together. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. They have to have people on the field to make bad calls. Why? So that the NFL can control the direction that these games go, so that the NFL can ordain the winner of the game. And I always point to the crazy coincidence that is, oh look, it's the 2 largest markets in the country that are waging battle in the most prestigious game of the year. It was almost, despite all the bad calls in the semifinals. I know that's not that's not what it's called. I don't care to be accurate in this context. Many bad calls against the Seattle Seahawks in favor of the Los Angeles Rams, because the NFL would love to have the team from the largest market on the West Coast playing the team in the largest markets on the East Coast. Why? Because that's the most profitable for the NFL. So it doesn't really make any sense that the NFL wouldn't have their fingers in deciding who the final teams are. And in a nutshell, that's why I'm not really that involved in professional sports, and even, I guess, college sports now, because the gloves are off. The college players have been getting paid for a long time now, several years. So we can count on college competitions to be just as corrupt as professional competitions. So it's a wonderful world. We can all just be entertained right? That's the point. That's what we can be excited about. The Super Bowl, the cool commercials, the halftime show, which is, boy, I mean, are we ever more inaccurately focused on the things that matter or don't matter than we are today? We have the Epstein files mysteriously disregarded. Nobody really seemed to care from my perspective until I started to dig in to what was eventually revealed. The latest tranche of Epstein documents was released. When exactly were they released? I would kind of like to know, but you may not be shocked to learn no new arrests, no prosecutions. I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of things to dig into. Some really fascinating stories developed as a result of the new Epstein releases. But I just need to know, when were the latest Epstein files released? Just because. Why not know? Why not know exactly? Why not be precise? Of course, I have here, if you're watching the video streaming live every Sunday at about 11 a.m., depending on what I struggle with that morning. Again, another Google Chrome update. I'm forced to use Google Chrome for my streaming and screen sharing capabilities. It looks like January 30th, we got 3 million documents and pictures and videos with just a few interesting developments. When I started digging into this stuff, I realized, oh, look, all of the people that I usually see, all the big names that I usually see in my feed, have actually been covering what was released, the big stories. And it was for some reason hidden from me. Was it hidden from you as well? Do you know about all of these things that we're about to talk about? I had to actively dig it up to find out what was actually revealed. We have the head of Rothschild Swiss Bank. What was her name? Ariana de Rothschild. From the Gateway Pundit. For years, it's been known how late pedophile Jeffrey Epstein had valuable contacts, not only among politicians and royal family members, but also among the real planet overlords, the members of the super elite whose name is not even known to the population at large. Now, with the new 3 million plus documents released by the US DOJ, the extent to which Epstein was capable of articulating with these powerful figures is being laid bare. To begin with, we have none less than Ariana de Rothschild, head of the family owned Edmond de Rothschild Swiss private bank. Her name appears more than 4,400 times in the Justice Department's online search. We have a 60 Minutes contributor, Peter Attia, doctor. Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah, that's right. The infallible Whoopi. And other members of The View. Multiple cast members of The View are mentioned in the Epstein files, shared on X by Nicholas Fondacaro. Whoopi Goldberg is mentioned nearly 24 times. Alyssa Farah Griffin, 20 times. Joy Behar, 3 times. Anna Navarro, twice. Sunny Hostin and Sarah Haynes mentioned 0 times. A lot of powerful Europeans, powerful Brits, along with Prince Andrew and another compromising photo. You see there if you're watching the stream on YouTube, X, Rumble, or Twitch, with the face of his victim blacked out. Well, I'm not going to describe it. Check out the video if you want to see. From the article, Andrew has left his Windsor mansion and gone into exile in a Sandringham farm. The 3 million new Epstein files released by the US DOJ are revealing damaging information about many powerful people around the world. But one of the most featured names is still former British Prince Andrew. From sexual indiscretions to sharing confidential documents and floating shady deals, every day is another hard blow to his destroyed reputation. The Telegraph reported the former Duke of York has relocated to Wood Farm, part of the King's Sandringham estate, while he waits for renovations to his new home, Marsh Farm, to be completed. He'd been expected to move before Easter, with his departure apparently hastened amid the release of new files relating to Epstein in recent days. The Sun shares on X, disgraced Andrew evicted from Royal Lodge in midnight exile. It almost feels like these Epstein files implicate more powerful Europeans than Americans. Or at least this is all the evidence that remains in the Epstein files. After all of the intelligence institutions and political institutions have moved their way through all of the evidence and conveniently removed themselves. I mean, how could that not be true? How could you not do that? If you're one of the implicated Epstein clients, how could you not work as hard as you could to get that evidence destroyed? Would you finance political campaigns? Would you help steal elections to elect your friends into office? Manipulate them to appoint the people that they need to appoint in order to absolve you of your misdeeds? How can these people not think this way? Do we understand the character of the people that would potentially be involved with someone like Jeffrey Epstein? Peter Mandelson. He was appointed to be the ambassador to the United States. Nominated by Keir Starmer's chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney. This headline from Forbes: UK Prime Minister's chief of staff resigns amid backlash over promoting Epstein-connected Peter Mandelson. So is that why? I mean, was the UK, was the EU really leaning on the Trump administration not to put out this information? Key facts from the Forbes article. In a statement released to the British press on Sunday, Morgan McSweeney, Keir Starmer's chief of staff, said he took full responsibility for advising Starmer to appoint Mandelson and insisted, quote, the only honorable course is to step aside. The extent of Mandelson's close relationship with Epstein was revealed when a birthday book compiled for Epstein was released last September, and in emails obtained by Bloomberg, prompting Starmer to fire Mandelson the same month. So, what level was McSweeney involved with Jeffrey Epstein? Do innocent people resign? I mean, sure, maybe he just wanted to be done. Maybe he wasn't into it anymore. Maybe he was implicated himself. Maybe Mandelson said, I'm going to implicate you. This is not this is not the right. Wonderful. This is not the article that I wanted to share. Well, let's see if we can. I know we can get back there. Gotta love it. Now my back button isn't working. This is the best. We'll just start over. Because there was a crown princess. I'm sure the article is still here. As I'm just scrolling through the headlines, we see Bill Gates, of course, tunnels underneath Epstein Island. This is kind of a tabloid ish source that I'm using here. But at this point, I'm really tired of trying to be moderate. Are leftist sources moderate? I mean, what do I have to do to get people engaged, to get people activated? I mean, I put Super Bowl in the title in the title of today's episode, not because I'm going to talk at length about the Super Bowl, because I want people engaged to understand the big picture, the big events, the things that really matter in the world, not the Super Bowl, the Epstein files. The evidence that is suggesting more and more people have been blackmailed, at least. I mean, people are saying that elite pedophile rings are running the world. Are they wrong? Is that not correct? Or are we actually 100% correct in our supposings? This headline from the Gateway Pundit. Royal family trouble. Norwegian crown princess under fire for being featured in hundreds of new Epstein files, while her son is on trial accused of graping 4 women. You know what I'm talking about. We got to use the sneaky language. Because otherwise, I wasn't sure that I was going to talk about this. And after going back and reviewing what actually happened, I sort of feel a little bit better about it. But I felt like Riverside, the platform that I use to stream to Rumble and YouTube and X and Twitch, actually censored some of the things that I talked about last week while we were covering the Georgia election fraud revelations. It was strange as I was going together, or as I was going through and putting together the clips, social media clips, to elevate the visibility of the show. I found a section that was cut out, whited out, and would not, and that the captions that I like to put on those videos would not recognize what was being said. It happens a lot when I play clips. It's not unusual. But this wasn't a clip. This was me speaking. Riverside had, of its own volition, removed the audio and tried to hide it like it was a pause and there was no speaking actually going on. Because there's tools that will take out your extra words, your extra sounds, the unnecessary things, the pauses, which a lot of times I leave in because I like the pauses. I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting. But there's a massive effort to suppress certain viewpoints. It exists, it's happening right now. Ask any big content creator on X if they feel like their reach is suppressed. They will tell you it is. I see it all the time. If you're like me, you have to believe that there was a massive effort to suppress the Epstein files to protect the people implicated. And despite all that, we have this story about this Norwegian crown princess from the article. The princess is apologizing for her close Epstein ties, just as her son is on trial for grape. Because if you want to have any hope of having your content promoted, you have to say this person graped a woman instead of, without the G. The royal family in Norway is reeling with the repercussion of the latest and probably last document release on the Epstein files. The release files cast a very negative light on Norway's crown princess, Mette Marit. DPA reported. What the heck is DPA? DPA International. I still don't know what it is. Okay, I guess we'll never know. Rip. Did I lose my screen share? No, here we are. According to media reports on Saturday, the 52-year-old is mentioned several hundred times in the documents published by the U.S. Department of Justice on Friday. It became known years ago that she had contact with Epstein. I'm just skipping the name because I don't want to butcher it. A visit to Epstein's estate in Palm Beach, Florida in 2013 is creating waves, as the royal palace confirmed that she had, quote, borrowed Epstein's house through a mutual friend, staying there for 4 days. Is there evidence of criminality? Is she going to be arrested? On Friday evening, the crown princess apologized. She had, quote, not checked Epstein's background more thoroughly. She explained in a statement released to several Norwegian media outlets. She said she had shown poor judgment and regretted having had any contact with Epstein at all. So the story goes. They all deeply regret that they got caught for being affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein. Reid Hoffman also. Big time Democrat donor. The headline, billionaire Reid Hoffman, who bankrolled the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit against Trump. Remember where she said that Trump came into the Bergdorf whatever store and grabbed her by the P word? That, was complete. It was a complete smear job. They changed the law in New York to allow E. Jean Carroll to bring this lawsuit against Donald Trump. Convince me that they didn't change the law in New York exclusively to allow this to happen. I'll start the headline over. Billionaire Reid Hoffman, who bankrolled the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit against Trump, is featured extensively in the new Epstein files, visiting Zorro Ranch and PDF File Island. A man who used his fortune to bankroll a lawsuit against President Donald J. Trump is now featured extensively in the new DOJ released Jeffrey Epstein documents. The 3.5 million documents from the latest have been released to the DOJ. We know this. Documents from this massive release show the close ties between LinkedIn co founder Reid Hoffman and the late PDF file. The pair discusses visits to Epstein's infamous private island, his New Mexico ranch, and his New York apartment. The New York Post reported Reid will spend the night at 71st, referring, I assume, to the New York apartment. According to one email from Hoffman's team, included in the latest Justice Department dump of Epstein files. Let's get to the email. That's the most interesting part. We have from the skiff on X, quote, "Okay, come to Island Ranch, let's play," said Jeffrey Epstein to Reid Hoffman. From Jeffrey Epstein, this is the email thread to Reid Hoffman. One word. He types Skype question mark, like, "Hey, let's have a face-to-face conversation that I can record from my computer." That's not included. It's just the reality. Reid Hoffman responds, "Something urgent? Currently in China, preparing for Xi visit in a few weeks." Epstein responds, "No. When are you back? Will you be in New York for General Assembly, Clinton, etc.?" Hoffman responds, "Probably not. China visits, etc., possibly next year." And this correspondence was taking place in September of 2015. So nowhere near the next year. Epstein responds, "Okay, come to Ranch Island." It's lots of typos, lots of weird typos, lots of equal signs. Check out the video if you want to see them. "Let's play," he says to Reid Hoffman. Is there any evidence of criminality there? Is there anything prosecutable? Now this may be the most explosive. This one is cool. Very interesting. In fact, I mean, I will read a little bit from the article, but I am going to run over to the DOJ webpage where the actual email exists. Because this is big. This is very interesting. Evidence of criminality? Prosecution's coming? I don't know. But it sure seems to expose that this is much more controversial than we're learning in the mainstream media. The headline from the Gateway Pundit: shocking email from Epstein files implicates former U.S. ambassador, Clinton's, Biden's, the first commanding officer of SEAL Team 6, and more. Let's just get to the email. From justice.gov/Epstein/files. We scroll down. This is an email correspondence between redacted brackets NY brackets OGA and someone called Ken T, who writes, "We've had another serious incident since an American shot the trial judge in our child sex trafficking case here. He and I both think this latest incident is tied to the fact we have reached out to your team. Who on your team knows we are talking to you? Anyone assigned from NSA, CIA, or US State Department? People understand people's lives here are in jeopardy. We have had 4 armed attacks against us. My partner has shot and killed 2 and wounded 5 American agents to date. Numerous white American agents following us in vans assigned to U.S. Embassy. Jorge was attacked and lost his arm. The president of Mexico is keenly aware of our case against Marcinko and other U.S. officials. This case we have here is most certainly connected to yours. We have the proof. Our case will help bring a whole new dynamic to what you know and who is involved. Prince Philip is small fry compared to what we have uncovered. I wonder if he means Prince Andrew. There is also a Prince Philip. Is he now also implicated? No headlines about Prince Philip. I guess we'll have to wait and see. The email continues. You may want to question the ex US ambassador to Mexico, Mr. Earl Anthony Wayne, about his involvement with an underage girl when he attended and was arrested by the federal police. We believe that Marcinko and Epstein were involved organizing this party, and it was held in Juarez, Mexico in 2014 at a U.S. consulate controlled housing facility. Ask him how he knows Richard Marcinko. He was sentenced in Mexico in 2017 to a life sentence for impregnating an 11-year-old girl. Her son's DNA matches Wayne's 100%, but he is allowing an ex US Marine to stand in his place to serve his sentence in Mexico. That was an agreement worked out between our US State Department and a judge in Mexico after a huge payoff. So to me, this says this US ambassador coerced a United States Marine to admit that he had done the horrific thing and go to prison in place of this politically connected individual, Earl Anthony Wayne. Mr. Anthony has an outstanding arrest warrant here in Mexico for avoiding sentencing. The email continues. His cell number is, of course, redacted. I want to confirm that the phone you will be using has been swept for malware and keyloggers. After our call, you'll understand why we are so concerned with secure comms here. Signed, Ken Turner. Previous correspondence says, okay, can you use WhatsApp on that one? Talking about secure forms of communication. The NYOGA, unnamed person, says, no, we talk first, then I can request a phone amiable to WhatsApp. They want to use WhatsApp. The Chinese spy software. That's not what it is. In fact, it's marketed as being secure and encrypted. But do you think China can't look at that stuff? I mean, are these guys using WhatsApp and providing incriminating evidence to the Chinese Communist Party? I think that's definitely possible. So who are these people involved? Who is this Marcinko guy? Well, from the article, a series of emails uncovered in the most recent release by the Department of Justice reads like a spy thriller novel. American agents in a foreign country attacking local law enforcement to disrupt an investigation. Threats made all the way up to the president of Mexico. A judge shot by an American in order to delay a trial. A U.S. ambassador implicated in all of it. The emails appear to involve Ken Turner, who goes by Ken T in the emails, and possibly NYPD detective Walter E. Harkins, based on a signature field in one of the emails. Harkins retired from the NYPD just days after the 2024 election, following a 33-year career ending 4 generations of familial service to the department. What have we discovered here? Jorge is prepared to talk to you regarding Marcinko and Epstein and all the videos and photos he has. Where are all of these videos and photos? Marcinko later would be identified as Richard Marcinko, the first commanding officer of the elite SEAL Team 6. Quote, he will openly disclose what evidence he has and who some of the participants at these sex parties were. The email concluded. After this correspondence is when people started getting shot. This is explosive. NYPD detectives, SEAL Team 6 operatives, ambassadors. Does it make sense now why some of this information has been withheld? Why it's taken so long to get out? And is it even more believable that these people would do anything they could to have this evidence destroyed? Do you think they didn't succeed in 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24? In all of the time that has passed since these alleged crimes were committed, and since the evidence has changed hands, how many opportunities were presented to destroy the evidence? How many opportunities were presented to bribe someone in the NYPD, in the White House, in the military? And then what would they do instead? Imagine how powerful it would be to possess evidence of heinous crimes against a politically connected individual. And what would stop these people from fabricating evidence against their enemies? This I'm sorry, you don't want to believe this stuff? It's just the reality of the situation. It's the reality of the implications. But of course, there was lots of talk by the administration leading up to this about protecting the victims. Oh, before I forget, I came across this bizarre article from the Eagle. American Universities News and Views, published today. The headline, Students Protest Amid Unconfirmed Allegations Found in Epstein Files. University reviewing claims against SIS professor and former ambassador to Mexico, Earl Anthony Wayne. The guy who allegedly got a Marine to take the fall and serve a life sentence in Mexico. Alleged, of course, in these emails just released in these Epstein files. Now has an on campus protest against unconfirmed allegations. Boy, we wanted those Epstein files so badly. Now we're getting them. And when it implicates people on the left, oh, we have more staged protests. I mean, does that does that confirm it for you? Or does that dispute it for you? I suppose that depends on what your politics are. And that's why I just won't believe any of it. I mean, are the people responsible now, today? Trump administration people, staffers. Do you think they wouldn't destroy evidence to protect some prominent conservative? To protect Donald Trump? So where are the arrests? Where's the evidence of criminal? I mean, apparently a Marine was already arrested for this Wayne guy. Close the case on that one. Are we going to open it back up? I think this guy deserves to probably be arrested. Who else? Who else deserves to be arrested? Where's the evidence of the crimes? All destroyed years ago, all destroyed by the Biden administration. Do you think Bill Barr would have anything destroyed to protect himself, to protect people that he knows? There was a lot of talk about protecting the victims. They couldn't just blow all the evidence out to us. They had to protect the victims. Well, who qualifies as a victim? And, maybe this investigation has been going on for a long time behind the scenes. Maybe the people implicated in the files were interrogated to determine their level of involvement or criminality. My brain goes immediately to the gray area. What if these people were tricked? They had no foreknowledge. They didn't know what they were getting into. They're at a party. Things are getting wild. They ended up in a dark room with a girl. Didn't know. I mean, is that a fair excuse? Is that enough to claim that you were a victim of Jeffrey Epstein and his dealings? You go to a party, some things happen, some girls were involved. Maybe you cheated on your spouse, did some things that were wrong. Maybe something that could allow you to be blackmailed. Are you a victim? You get a call from old Jeffrey or whomever informing you that you are now technically a PDF file because that girl was only 17. Where do your morals end up in that situation? Does that person deserve mercy? Does that person deserve to be exposed in these Epstein files? I mean, this is a known intelligence tactic. Seduce people into doing bad things. Capture the evidence and use that against them. In my research, I uncovered this awesome Substack called Trenchart. And I actually tried to find the author to see if I could get them to just give me a few minutes on the show to talk about these kind of things. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any contact information. The contact information I was able to find didn't lead to this person. The author of this article is not the owner of the Substack. And I don't know. I mean, just with how cloak and dagger this all is, imagine them coming on some random podcast to talk about it. I don't feel like they'd be particularly enthusiastic, but it's by a person who calls themselves Darian Kavanaugh. Could very well be the exact person that owns the Substacks, just using a what do you call it? A pen name. They don't want to be recognized. They don't want the attention. This was written almost a year ago, February 17th, 2025, with the headline, "The CIA's Operation Midnight Climax was exactly what it sounded like." And Midnight Climax sounds exactly like the Epstein files. With the tagline, "Agents lured Johns to brothels for drug-laced encounters." Let's dig in. It's a little bit of a different show this week. On April 13th, you know what? I'm going to blow this up. On April 13th, 1953, CIA Director Alan Dulles authorized Project MK Ultra, the controversial series of experiments aimed at developing mind control techniques and discovering a truth drug. Agents dosed subjects with LSD and other psychotropic narcotics, hypnotized them, and exposed them to radiation and electroshock therapy. Some of the participants volunteered, but others did so unwillingly and unwittingly. The CIA attempted to destroy all records of the program, leaving behind only 7 boxes of official files and overlooked during the document purge. But a few stories survived. One of the strangest revolves around a series of uncontrolled experiments named Operation Midnight Climax. CIA operatives involved with Midnight Climax hired prostitutes in San Francisco to lure clients back to brothels. Once there, the agents secretly drugged their targets and watched them engage in sexual activities from behind a two-way mirror. America's spies began searching for mind control substances during World War II. As the conflict raged, the Office of Strategic Services, the precursor of the CIA, implemented a truth drug program in hopes of discovering a means to coerce prisoners of war to reveal their secrets during interrogations. This is, of course, how it was sold. Now we're going to do this for the prisoners of war. The OSS initially toyed with a concentrated liquid form of marijuana rather than the newly discovered LSD, according to journalist Gary Camilla, writing in the San Francisco Chronicle. George White, an OSS captain and ex-federal narcotics agent, gave the first dose to a New York mobster in 1943. Quote, "Every subject but one, and he didn't smoke, gave us more information than we had before," one of White's colleagues recalled. However, the results were ultimately deemed inconclusive, Camilla wrote. As World War II ended and the Korean War intensified, the CIA and the Pentagon grew concerned over reports that foreign intelligence agencies had developed brainwashing methods of their own. These rumors inspired the classic Cold War film, The Manchurian Candidate, which I saw the one with, oh, what's his name? It's escaping me, but I think Denzel and the other guy. Why is his name so hard to think of? I do this with certain actors. Of course, it's going to pull me the 1960s one and not the. Here we go. Dang it! Still can't think of his name. I'm doing the thing where it's like, oh, countdown, countdown. You're almost going to find out. You're almost going to find out. Liv Schreiber. Liv Schreiber. That's the guy I was trying to think of. I watched it. It was good. It was fascinating and very revealing, I suppose. What happened to my. Oh, now it's going to make me share it again. There we go. MK Ultra, I had to find my spot, was, at least in part, a response to this perceived threat. If our adversaries are developing mind control and brainwashing, we got to figure out how to do it too. So, damn everyone's rights. Protect the homeland at all costs, I guess. From the article, Sidney Gottlieb, the head of the chemical division of the CIA's Technical Services Division, urged Dulles, Alan Dulles, the director of the CIA, to approve testing LSD as a potential mind control or brainwashing substance. Dulles agreed. Gottlieb brought White, a rock'em sock'em cop not overly carried away with playing spook, end quote, into the program as a consultant, according to one account. White started in Greenwich Village, where he administered LSD, knockout drops, and marijuana to his unwitting, quote, guests using food, drinks, and cigarettes, then tried to get them to talk, Camilla wrote. It didn't take White long to veer the experiments in the direction of illicit sex. He transferred to San Francisco in 1955 and set up a brothel in the city's Telegraph neighborhood. He wanted the spot to have a, quote, French whorehouse look. Very nice. The operative decorated the walls with Toulouse-Lautrec prints, photos of can-can dancers, and images of women in bondage and S&M scenarios. To complete the setup, he installed two-way mirrors for agents to sit behind and watch. Quote, it was supposed to look rich, but it was furnished like crap. One narcotics agent who frequented the location told John Marks, author of The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, the CIA and Mind Control. The prostitutes picked up the Johns at local bars and brought them back to the makeshift brothel. White, his fellow agents, preferred men from working class or financially disadvantaged backgrounds. The idea was that subjects with limited social status would attract the least attention and be less likely to cause any issues. Remember, this is all under the theory that we're going to figure out what drug cocktails to give to people to get them to spill their secrets. Quote, an unsuspecting John would think he had bought a night of pleasure, go back to a strange apartment, and wind up zonked, Marks wrote. Of course, official documents employed vague, bureaucratic language when portraying the encounters. A report written by Gottlieb that survived the purge described the process as follows. Quote, certain individuals, the prostitutes, would covertly administer this material, the drugs, to other people, the Johns, in accordance with, quote, White's instructions. White paid the women with agency funds and chits, quote, they could use for favors such as getting out of jail, end quote, Camilla added. Gottlieb was unaware the financial scheme could be dangerous, quote, due to the highly unorthodox nature of these activities and the considerable risk incurred by these individuals. It is impossible to require that they provide a receipt for these payments or that they indicate the precise manner in which funds were spent, he wrote in his report. But the MK Ultra team considered the first San Francisco safe house such a success that they opened a second one across the Golden Gate Bridge in Marin County. White also oversaw this operation. Quote, you could bring people in for quickies after lunch, one MK Ultra agent told Marks of the Telegraph Hill address. The suburban Marin County location, on the other hand, provided a greater sense of isolation and secrecy, allowing for more elaborate and ridiculous experiments. Marks wrote, there, TSS, Technical Services staff, scientists, tested such MK Ultra specialties as stink bombs, itching and sneezing powders, and diarrhea inducers. TSS's Ray Treichler, the Stanford chemist, sent these harassment substances out to California for testing by White. along with such delivery systems as a mechanical launcher that could throw foul smelling objects hundreds of yards, glass ampules that could be stepped on in a crowd to release any of Trichler's powders, a fine hypodermic needle to inject drugs through the cork in a wine bottle, and drug coated swizzle sticks. The secret doping experiments didn't end there, nor did the operative's choice of drugs. And targets stay confined to Johns. Quote, if we were scared enough of a drug not to try it out on ourselves, we sent it to San Francisco, a CIA source told Marks. How nice. Wayne Ritchie, a deputy U.S. Marshal, unknowingly drank an LSD contaminated beverage at a Christmas party. Out of his mind, he attempted to rob a bar at gunpoint, according to a haunting account at SF Weekly. He resigned from the Marshal's service, but avoided jail. White's journal indicated he was also at the party. Ritchie went on to sue the U.S. government, but was unable to prove the CIA dosed him. The agency shut down MK Ultra in the late 1960s after John Vance of the CIA's Inspector General's office discovered the experiments. However, two related programs, MK Search and Project Often, continued until 1972 and 1973, respectively. There were real human victims as a result of these programs, including at least one death. Numerous subjects suffered permanent mental and psychological degradation. At least the Operation Midnight Climax was a failure and an embarrassment for the CIA. It provided inconclusive, unscientific results with scant actionable intelligence applications. It besmirched the reputation of the CIA, both in terms of ethics and practicality, and negatively affected the lives of hundreds of people. So, no mind control, no truth serum. But what did it teach them? What did they learn? How were they able to apply this information? Well, they learned that they could coerce people into doing unsavory things, into doing drugs, into cheating on their partners with prostitutes. But they say, oh, that was a failure. That was a failure, and we're embarrassed, so we're deleting what we thought was all the evidence. And abandoning the project right now. We're not going to do that anymore. Even though we kept projects going for 20 years after what we claimed was the failure of that project. We used taxpayer dollars to buy drugs and pay off the civilians that we used to facilitate these experiments. Now, of course, it's all better, right? These people don't behave like this anymore. Or maybe they've actually just gotten better at covering their tracks. Maybe they're just better about lying to the public about what's actually going on. And the get out of jail free cards, the chits. Who do you think got those? Do people still have them? Are they using them now? Are they calling in all of their favors to have Epstein evidence destroyed and keep themselves out of jail? And what level of Donald Trump? What level is Donald Trump involved? His name appears thousands of times in the Epstein files, we're told. Is Donald Trump Jeffrey Epstein Manchurian candidate? I think it's honestly too early to tell. I'm not ready to cut my support for Donald Trump. But what do you think about Pam Bondi? Can you make Pam Bondi the scapegoat for all of the Department of Justice's failings this far? We went through all the Epstein files. It's not, I mean, I hate to break it to you. It's not a crime that their name shows up in connection with this person who was actively trying to make connections with powerful, famous, wealthy people. And this may be the last dump of files that we get. I mean, the evidence has changed hands so many times. What did you really expect? I mean, this was, in my opinion, I've been contemplating this for so long. We've known about these things for so long. We can't believe any official sources because the official sources are implicated in the Epstein files. We know that. Heads of banks, titans of industry, big tech moguls. I mean, what a theatrical spectacle. I suppose we can continue to hope for justice. We can hope for people to be held accountable. I think all the evidence is gone. I think the evidence of criminality is gone. I think it's been gone for a long time. And I think the Democrats pushed the Epstein files up to distract us, to try to implicate Trump, to try to hamstring the investigations. I think what's really important is the SAVE Act, securing our elections. And I'll have to save that for next week. And I don't even know if anything is going to come of that. This is supposed to require voter ID in federal elections. And get rid of things like mass mail-in voting, voting machines. All of the ways that our elections have been stolen in the past. That's what we need to be focusing on. We need to be focusing on stopping the communist takeover of our country. But we're distracted. We're distracted with the Epstein files. We're distracted with the Super Bowl. We're distracted by identity politics, bread and circuses. You have to get involved at the local level. You have to pay attention to what is happening in your own backyard. You have to avail yourself of the freedoms that you're losing right now. And I think that's what I'm going to start talking about moving forward. I don't know if that's the right decision. I don't know what the right direction is. But we need to know what's happening to us right now. Not what's happening to Reid Hoffman in the Epstein files. Not who's playing football on Sunday. But enjoy yourselves. We have time for both. But for some reason, the mainstream media wants to keep the Epstein files hidden. And that's enough of a motivation to blow it wide open for me. Why is there a protest happening for one of the people involved? It's bizarre. It means something. So get back here next week and find out what it means. We'll be going live again on Sunday at 11 a.m. Find the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Anywhere you enjoy audio podcasts, you will find the earthvox podcast. Please like, please share, please subscribe. I am at earthvox on X. The email address is therealearthvox@protonmail. And the voicemail, of course, I would love to hear from you. 701-787-1121. I'll be back.